for 2012, Sony has announced 3 additions to its growing and increasingly confusing Xperia smartphone line, the T, V and J. Any Scrabble fans out there? The Xperia T is the new flagship device with a 4.6-inch 720p display, 13-megapixel camera, dual-core 1.5GHz processor, Android 4 HDMI out and NFC. The Xperia V is very similar but slightly smaller, ruggedized and with a 4.3-inch display, and both have the very Google-ish virtual control buttons, yay! Meanwhile, the Xperia J is an entry-level smartphone with 4-inch WVGA display and a modest 5-megapixel camera. Of the 3, only the T seems about to be available anytime soon. Also at IFA, Samsung announced its first Windows Phone 8 device, the Ativ S, with 9mm aluminium chassis and a huge 4.8-inch HD Super AMOLED display, essentially a companion device to the Android-powered Galaxy S3. Under the hood is a 1.5 GHz dual-core processor, 1 GB of onboard RAM, and an 8-megapixel autofocus rear camera, plus 16GB or 32GB mass memory as desired, and micro SD expansion. Particularly impressive is the inclusion of a big 2300 mAh battery. Hot off the press are Nokia's Lumia 920 and 820, both running Windows Phone 8. The 920 is the flagship with a 4.5-inch screen, 2000 mAh battery, wireless charging, and, wait for it, a PureView camera. Except that it's PureView Phase 2, something different that Nokia has been experimenting with in the labs. In this case, true optical stabilization. The 920 may be no 808 PureView, but it should still mean the end of many people's motion-blurred photos and jerky video. The Lumia 820 is more mid-range with a 4.3-inch screen and interchangeable fashion backs. What you're seeing here is the phone show on a wall, projected by the subject of my review, the Samsung Galaxy Beam here. Actually, Samsung's second attempt at the concept. This is the GT i8530, but you can simply call it the Beam. Looks pretty good, eh? And indeed it is. My family went nuts over the possibilities of projecting things, and minds ran wild. There is huge novelty value here in terms of adding one more major function to the list of what smartphones can now do. But as you might be expecting from me, there are also some serious caveats. Not least that the laws of physics get in the way. The footage you just saw was in the evening with lights off in the room. Here's the same footage indoors in the same room, in daylight but with the blinds drawn. Not quite so impressive, but then think back to the maths. The Galaxy Beam's projector here is rated at only 15 lumens. A typical standalone projector like those you might find in a school or meeting room easily tops 2000 lumens, over 100 times brighter. Again, not surprising since this is all coming off a phone battery, but at least your expectations are now set fairly low. Yes, the brightness of the Beam's Pico projector is usable, but conditions do have to be carefully managed. There are other issues too, not least the positioning of the projector on the Beam's top edge. Yes, I know this is the logical place for it, but it makes no sense in terms of actually displaying things. You see, the picture that's projected is in landscape, as you might expect. The phone itself is very obviously in portrait mode, so you get a thin vertical image that's a mere 360 pixels of resolution high, with huge blank bars either side. Now, videos of all kinds work okay, and the projector software knows how to rotate them to landscape, as you saw earlier. But photos, office documents, applications, and just about everything else you might want to project all appear in this thin, sandwiched mode. What's needed is to have the projector on the left-hand side of the phone so that when you view media, web pages, office documents, for example, slideshows in landscape mode, the projection comes out of the front and in matching landscape mode. Of course, having the projector bulge on the left wouldn't look as cool, but I was sad to see Samsung opting for fashion rather than functionality here. Can this be fixed at all in software? Perhaps. Hooks for intelligently handling photos and slideshows might be enough, but without these hooks, the whole system is fundamentally flawed, since to get proper landscape projection, let's say the screen's over there, you have to stand clumsily at right angles to the projection line with the phone held artificially in landscape mode and then kind of rotate it without it flipping back to portrait. And if you're very lucky, it works. Unless all you want to do is play videos, which isn't very creative at all. One final note is that the projection is NHD, the same low resolution that critics have been panning Symbian for the last 4 years. In other words, load up a 720p video and you're only seeing 1 in 4 of the pixels in the original frames. Bit of a waste. So yes, fundamentally flawed, but fun. And hopefully there will be a big software update to fix things up. But how much faith do you have in Samsung? Away from the projector, this is a bog standard 2011 standard Samsung smartphone, albeit one in a striking yellow frame, appreciated most here with the battery cover off. There's a 4-inch WVGA LCD screen, Android 2.3.6 plus Samsung TouchWiz, dual-core 1 GHz processor, 768 meg of RAM, 8 GB mass memory plus microSD, 5 megapixel camera, a very ordinary specification by modern standards. You've seen the rest of the device before, honest. The beam's only about £350 SIM-free, allow £100 for the projector bit, and you end up with a very mid-range handset, to be honest. You do get two 2,000 mAh batteries plus a desktop charging dock. The aim here is that you can project a full 2-hour movie file for your friends or family down the campsite, which will nigh on drain the battery, and then you simply pop in the spare and stick the original back in the charger at the next opportunity. A very useful set of add-on accessories. The speaker is pretty good, but not exactly Nokia 808 or iPhone 4S volume. So you might want to bring along some decent speakers if you're projecting a movie to plug into the audio jack at the same time. More bits to bring along, I'm afraid. In terms of extra software, there's a torch mode which puts out the full, what dazzle you, the full 15 lumens in white, green or blue, plus QuickPad that lets you draw on the screen while projecting to point out things to others, in principle. Ambience mode cycles through your images with background music of your choice, plus Visual Presenter, which projects up a version of whatever's beneath the camera. Kind of an overhead projector mode, though again you have to fiddle with display rotation and how you hold or position the device. More generally, there's Polaris Office, the full thing. There are the usual Samsung suite of apps and suggestions, from a task manager to a diary to front ends for Samsung's music, ebook and application stores, all of which I ignored. Despite being fun to review, it's hard to know who to recommend the i8530 Beam to. Android fans will dismiss this as an overpriced mid-tier handset, albeit with fabulous battery life, while those with genuine projection ambitions will either be frustrated by the relatively low output or by the limitations of having the beam come out at the top of a portrait handset. Regardless, if when I showed you the phone projecting video your heart skipped a beat and your internal phone lust meter spiked, this might just be worth a look. The beam is certainly unique.